right here.
Beatdown decks are what happens when someone looks at strategy games and decides subtlety is overrated. Let's just drop the biggest, angriest units possible and see what happens.
Yep.
These decks revolve around building massive pushes with heavy tanks like Golem, Giant, or Lava Hound, then supporting them with enough backup firepower to make your opponent question their life choices and defensive capabilities. The core strategy is beautifully simple in its brutality. You sacrifice early game tempo to build an unstoppable late game death machine that steamrolls everything in its path. Think of it as the Clash Royale equivalent of investing all your money in one stock, except that stock is an 8 elixir, magical rock creature with anger management issues. You spend the first 2 minutes playing defensively, then drop a golem in the back and start stacking Night Witch, Baby Dragon.
That's not the type of deck I play. I used to play this type of deck, but nah. Not anymore. I love the concept of beatdown, but like it just wasn't my playstyle. Like, and I understood that when like I realized that there wasn't only 2 playstyles, cycle and beatdown. There's other playstyles.
For other nightmare fuel you can afford behind it. What makes beatdown particularly satisfying is how it turns your opponent's defensive efforts into a desperate scramble to find enough firepower to stop what essentially amounts to a walking apocalypse. They'll throw everything they have at your push, and if you've built it correctly, your remaining troops will still have enough health to delete their tower, while they frantically cycle back to more defensive options they probably don't have. The elixir management here is crucial because you're essentially banking everything on 1 or 2 massive pushes in double elixir time. You accept taking some damage early because you know that when your 15 elixir death ball reaches their tower, mathematical superiority will prevail over their scattered defensive attempts. Modern beatdown has been enhanced by evolution cards like Evolved Barbarians that making it even more overwhelming. The psychological warfare aspect is
yo, let me actually react to this video though. Yeah, let me actually react to this video, man.
Opponents start making increasingly desperate defensive decisions as they watch your elixir investment grow behind that tank. They know what's coming. They know it's going to hurt. But they also know that trying to stop it early might leave them defenseless when the real push arrives. It's like watching a natural disaster approach in slow motion while calculating whether you have enough sandbags to survive the flood. Control decks are for players who enjoy calculating whether you have enough sandbags to survive the flood. Control decks are for players who enjoy the psychological warfare aspect of Clash Royale.
I don't really like this type of playstyle. I've never really liked this type of playstyle.
Royale, preferring to slowly strangle their opponent's hopes and dreams rather than engaging in flashy offensive displays. These decks focus on efficient defense first, using cards like Inferno Tower, Valkyrie, and various support troops to neutralize enemy pushes, while gradually accumulating small advantages that compound into inevitable victory. The win condition in Control isn't about dramatic tower deletions, it's about methodical chip damage through cards like Miner, Royal Giant, or Graveyard counter pushes that capitalize on surviving defensive troops. You're basically playing chess while your opponent thinks they're playing checkers, calculating 3 moves ahead while they wonder why their supposedly overwhelming push just got dismantled by a fraction of its elixir cost. What makes Control particularly effective is how it manipulates the flow of the entire match. You dictate when fights happen.
The only type of Control deck I like to play is Miner Control. Freaking Expo, these other ones, bro, I hate these ones.
Where they happen, and what resources get committed. Your opponent makes aggressive plays, you answer them efficiently, then you counter push with whatever survived plus a small win condition investment. It's like being a martial arts master who uses the opponent's momentum against them, except with cartoon troops and elixir economics. The strategic depth here comes from recognizing that every elixir spent on defense can potentially become elixir spent on offense if your troops survive the...
Loki, I learned how to manage my elixir because I used to be like a overcommitting monster, bro. I don't even know how I made it to Arena 19 with like overcommitting my butt off, bro. Yo, when you learn that when somebody plays like a freaking Spark Tesla to counter your battle ram is a -4, and if he puts down the unnecessary what do you call that? Unnecessary musketeer, you can counter Hog 2.6 so easily. Unless you're playing a cycle deck, which I don't think you're playing a cycle deck against Hog 2.6. They wouldn't give you that in the queue. I don't think they would ever give you that in the queue. If you're playing a cycle deck, I don't think they're going to give you another cycle deck. They're going to probably give you like a beatdown deck to counter you.
Encounter. A Valkyrie that cleans up their push doesn't just defend, she becomes the tank.
Like, I realized that you could also overcommit on defense as well as offense.
For your next graveyard, creating these beautiful transitions from defense to offense that make control players feel intellectually superior to everyone else. The current meta has been particularly kind to control strategies, with cards like Evolved Witch providing incredible sustain through soul collection mechanics.
It's not a hobby.
Holy moly, bro.
It's your empire.
And Evolved Valkyrie creating tornado effects that group enemies for maximum area damage efficiency. The beauty of control is that you're constantly making your opponent play into your strategy. They want to attack, you want them to attack, so you can defend efficiently and counter push with surviving troops. Control requires incredible patience and game sense, because you're essentially playing a long-term investment strategy where every defensive trade needs to generate positive value over time. The satisfaction comes from watching opponents gradually realize that their aggressive strategies are actually fueling your defensive engine, and that every push they make just gives you more resources to work with for your eventual victory. Cycle decks embody the philosophy that speed kills, built around low-cost cards that let you rotate back to your win condition faster than your opponent can rotate back.
Cycle decks, I don't really like them. Like beatdown decks, like, I realized that there's not only two types of, like, cycle and beatdown is like the opposites. Like, it's a, you know how like there's like the light spectrum, I don't know what the electromagnetic spectrum, right? The radio waves all the way to ultraviolet waves, bro, or cancer waves, I don't know, bro. It's like freaking, one is the radio. The radio would be like the cycle decks, and ultraviolet would be beatdown. There's middle interactions. You could literally pick any other type of middle interaction, but you go straight to this one or this side. You can't, like, I don't think so.
To their counter. These decks typically average 2.6 to 3.0 elixir and revolve around repeatedly deploying the same win condition, usually Hog Rider, Miner, or Wall Breakers, until mathematical probability guarantees you'll eventually catch them without the right answer. The beauty of cycle strategy lies in its relentless pressure and predictable unpredictability. You're not trying to surprise anyone with your game plan. Everyone knows the 2.6 Hog Cycle player is going to keep sending Hog Riders. The genius is that knowing what's coming doesn't make it easier to...
My favorite type of deck, I don't know, bro. It really depends on what my mood for the day is, bro. And also because I don't know all of them by name. It's not Siege. It's not Speed Bait. I hate bait. It's definitely not Bridge Spam. Hybrid strategy, yeah. I like hybrids.
To stop when you can't afford the right counter every single time because they're cycling twice as fast as you are. What makes Cycle particularly infuriating to face is how it turns every slight defensive mistake into accumulated damage that eventually takes your tower. Miss the perfect cannon placement once? That's 300 damage. Use your log defensively when you needed it for offense? That's another hog connection. Each individual mistake seems small, but Cycle decks are designed to capitalize on the mathematical certainty that everyone makes small mistakes. The psychological pressure created by constant Hog Riders or Miners forces opponents into increasingly desperate defensive patterns that eventually break down under the sustained assault. It's like water dripping on a rock. Individually harmless, but given enough repetitions, it carves through mountains. The recent meta has actually been dominated by fast cycle strategies to the point where balance changes specifically targeted cycle dominance. Cards like Miner received nerfs because cycle decks were making other archetypes nearly unplayable at high levels. But the fundamental principle remains brutally effective. If you can use your win condition more often than they can counter it, mathematics will eventually work in your favor. The skill ceiling for cycle decks is deceptively high because perfect execution requires frame-perfect timing, precise placement, and constant elixir counting to know exactly when your opponent is vulnerable. The best cycle players develop an almost supernatural sense of when their opponent's key defensive card is out of rotation, striking with surgical precision that makes their constant pressure.
Something that I really don't, well, you have to really know if you want to play a cycle deck is how to manage cycles. Like I know that sounds like nang 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 nang. Of course, it literally has cycle name. It's like yeah. I can already see the comments, bro. Okay, yes, bro. But like not only your cycle, but also the opponent's cycle. You should know. Like the 4 beginning cards that he plays, you have to remember all of these and see what kind of deck he plays.
Feel inevitable rather than lucky. Siege decks are for players who looked at conventional warfare and thought, why engage in fair fights when you can just shell the enemy from safety?
Freaking hate siege decks. I'm not even gonna lie, bro. I played Expo or Motor, bro. Like I played the both best meta decks. I had both evolutions, bro. Siege decks, absolutely the worst type of decks.
Decks revolve around Expo or mortar buildings that attack enemy towers from your own side of the arena, forcing opponents to mount dangerous offensive pushes just to stop the constant artillery bombardment that's slowly deleting their towers. The strategic elegance of Siege lies in how it completely reverses normal Clash Royale dynamics.
Yep.
Instead of you trying to reach their towers, you force them to reach your siege weapon, turning every interaction into a defensive scenario where you hold all the geographical advantages. It's like playing a tower defense game where the enemy has to run through your kill zone to stop you from winning.
Yep.
What makes Siege particularly satisfying is how it punishes opponents for playing too defensively or making heavy investments. Drop a golem in the back, Expo goes to work on the opposite lane while you're committed to a slow push. Try to turtle up, the siege weapon will eventually chip you to death while you run out of defensive options. It forces aggressive play from opponents who might prefer to control the pace. The skill ceiling here is massive because Siege requires perfect placement, timing, and support coordination. You need to know exactly where to place your Expo to target the tower while staying out of building range, how to support it against different threats, and when to transition from defensive siege to offensive siege. When executed properly, Siege feels like conducting an orchestra of destruction from the comfort of your own territory. Modern Siege has evolved with cards like Evolved.
And literally Siege, I think like there's a pro that literally like caught up, bro. If you get really good at Siege, bro, well, I could say that about every single deck, but if you get really, really good at Siege, bro, nobody can beat you.
Mortar that spawns goblins with each shot, essentially combining siege pressure with troop generation for dual threat scenarios. The psychological aspect is crucial because opponents know they need to stop your siege weapon, but approaching it means walking into your defensive setup where you have every advantage. The positioning requirements are so precise that top siege players memorize exact tile placements for different scenarios, where to place Expo against Tesla, how to angle mortar shots to hit towers while avoiding buildings, and which support placements provide maximum protection. It's probably the most technically demanding archetype, but also one of the most rewarding when you watch opponents struggle helplessly against your long-range superiority. Spell-bait decks operate on
bait. Bait truly is the funnest. I think it's the funnest, or probably bridge spam or bait, but like they're both like in the middle. Like they're directly in the middle, bro. Like bait is like more to the cycle side, but bridge spam is more to the beatdown side, and bait is not cycle because it's so much funner, bro.
The fundamental principle that
what am I saying, bro? I don't even know what I'm saying anymore, bro.
To handle all your problems, so you're going to keep presenting them with problems until they run out of solutions. These decks pack multiple cards that demand the same spell response, typically log or arrows, then capitalize when opponents waste their spells on the wrong threats. The core strategy revolves around the classic bait and switch. Show them Princess or Goblin Gang to draw out their log, then immediately punish with Goblin Barrel while their log is out of rotation. It's psychological warfare disguised as card game mechanics, training opponents to fear every swarm deployment because they know something worse is coming if they respond incorrectly. What makes bait particularly effective is how it exploits the universal truth that everyone eventually miscalculates their spell usage. Players know they're being baited, but
but bait is like the easiest to counter, bro. You learn how to effectively use your spells, bro, is GG's. You're never losing to a bait deck.
Pressure of constant swarm threats.
I don't think I've ever lost I haven't lost a bait deck since like.
It's like a magician making you watch the wrong hand while the trick happens with the other one. The evolution of bait strategy has become incredibly sophisticated, with modern variants running dual barrels, spell-resistant evolutions, or hybrid approaches that combine bait elements with other archetypes. The psychological pressure never decreases, even when opponents know exactly what you're trying to do. The mathematics of spell rotation usually guarantee that you'll eventually catch them at the wrong moment. Recent additions like Evolved Goblin Barrel have taken bait strategy to absurd.
Maybe it's because it's arena. Maybe it's arena that like it is, bro. But like, bro, I've never fell to a freaking bait deck, bro.
Levels by deploying 2 barrels simultaneously.
I need allies. I want you to join me.
I see.
1 reel, 1 decoy, forcing opponents into guessing games where being wrong means significant tower damage. The current meta has made bait even more complex with cards that resist traditional spell answers or provide value even when successfully countered. The mental game aspect is what separates good bait players from great ones. You're not just managing your own cycle and elixir, you're tracking their spell rotation, predicting
that's the word I was trying to look for. Spell rotation, bro.
Responses, and constantly adapting your bait patterns to stay one step ahead of their defensive adjustments. It's like playing poker where your cards are visible, but you're betting on their inability to respond perfectly every single time. Bridge spam decks embody pure aggression.
This is the most gayest freaking archetype. And Loki is the funnest. I'm not gonna lie, bro. You can't lie to me telling me that Bridge spam is not the funnest to play, bro. Yo, Bridge spam is the funnest to play, but bro, you play this one, bro. You're actually you're the smartest, buddy. You're the smartest. Like,
and opportunity.
I don't really like Bridge spam.
Any elixir
Bridge spam players
mistake with immediate
playing Bridge spam
at the bridge. These decks pack fast,
like once or twice
high damage units like Bandit,
a year,
Battle Ram, and Royal Ghost that can transition from defense to devastating.
Do I have Bridge spam? Oh crap! It literally just said like one of my Bridge spam.
Bandit, Battle Ram, and Royal.
I don't have all 3. I only have one.
Ghost
Calm down, guys.
That can transition from defense to devastating offense in the time it takes your opponent to realize they're in trouble. The strategic philosophy here is constant pressure and opponent exhaustion. You're not building slow pushes or waiting for perfect moments. You're creating constant threats that demand immediate responses, gradually wearing down their defensive options until something inevitably breaks through. It's like being attacked by a caffeinated honey badger that never stops coming and gets angrier when you try to defend. What makes Bridge spam particularly devastating is how it capitalizes on the universal tendency to overspend on offense. Opponent drops a golem in the back, Battle Ram and Bandit are already sprinting toward their other tower before the golem takes its second step. They use lightning on your push. Royal Ghost is already invisible, walking toward their princess tower while they count their remaining elixir and question their defensive priorities. The timing elements require constant vigilance and quick decision making because bridge spam windows are often measured in seconds rather than planned rotations. You need to recognize the exact moment when your opponent is vulnerable and commit immediately because hesitation means missed opportunities and missed opportunities mean your opponent recovers and probably counter pushes you into oblivion. Modern bridge spam is evolved with cards like Evolved Battle Ram that bounces repeatedly against targets, and champion cards like Boss Bandit, whose dash ability provides
Golden Knight
invisibility and bypasses traditional defensive positioning. The archetype has also benefited from Evolved Knight's 60% damage reduction shield while moving, making it even harder to stop spam units once they start advancing. The skill requirement is intense because you're constantly making split-second decisions about when to commit elixir and which lane to pressure. The best bridge spam players develop an almost supernatural sense of timing, knowing exactly when their opponent's defensive tools are out of rotation and striking with precision that makes their aggression feel calculated rather than reckless. But honestly, sometimes it's just about throwing angry units at the bridge and seeing what sticks. Hybrid decks represent the evolution of Clash Royale strategy beyond rigid archetypes, combining elements from multiple strategies to create unpredictable.
I would say my deck is a control bridge spam. Okay, now this is starting to sound like one of the freaking genders that is not real, bro.
Adaptable threats that can shift game plans mid-match based on opponent weaknesses.
What are you guys even talking about?
The pure power of specialized strategies for the flexibility to never be completely hard countered, by any single approach. The brilliance of hybrid strategy lies in its ability to present different win conditions depending on what the opponent is prepared to handle. Facing heavy beatdown, switch to cycle mode with minor chip damage. Opponent running multiple small spells, pivot to your Royal Giant beatdown plan. It's like having multiple decks in one, except you decide which version to deploy based on real-time matchup analysis. What makes hybrid decks particularly effective in the current meta is how they exploit opponent assumptions about your deck archetype. Players prepare
the most, like this, I would say this is DIY. This is the homemade decks. I think literally every homemade deck is a hybrid strategy, bro. Like, people will assume that you will have a deck no matter what cards you play. No matter what cards you play, every deck has like a different card, except if you play Void. Who the freak uses Void, bro? Or Barbhawk, bro. Nobody's gonna guess, but like, you play literally any other card. Barbarians, yo, they're gonna expect you to have like Goblin style. This deck.
For what they think you're running, then discover you have completely different tools available when their counters don't work as expected. The mental stack overflow that occurs when opponents realize your deck doesn't follow conventional rules.
Yo, who the frick is running this deck, bro? Yo, who gave him the idea to put these 3 cards?
Is often enough to win games through pure confusion. The skill requirement here is enormous because you need to understand multiple archetypes deeply enough to execute them properly, while also reading opponents quickly enough to know which approach will be most effective.
Thank you, bro.
Master-level hybrid players essentially become deck-building philosophers, constantly adapting their strategic approach based on the flow of individual matches. Popular hybrid examples include Mortar Miner decks that can play Siege when facing Beatdown or Control when facing Cycle, and PEKKA bridge spam variants that include bait elements like Goblin Barrel for when
Bro, why is he saying it like it's a slur, bro? Like, why, like, what the freak?
bridge pressure isn't working. The current meta's diversity of champions and evolution cards has made hybrid building even more sophisticated.
Golden Knight!
As these powerful cards often don't fit neatly into traditional archetypes. The challenge with hybrids is that you can sometimes feel like a jack of all trades, master of none situation where your execution of each individual strategy isn't quite as polished as a dedicated deck. But when piloted by skilled players who understand the meta deeply, hybrids become incredibly powerful tools for adaptation and surprise. They're essentially the Swiss Army knives of Clash Royale. Not always the perfect tool for every job, but versatile enough to handle whatever the meta throws at you. Split lane strategies force opponents into the impossible choice between defending.
But who actually plays split lane strategies, bro? Nobody. It's a freaking dead, deck type.
Adequately on one side, or spreading their resources too thin across both lanes, typically using cards like Royal Recruits and Royal Hogs that naturally divide into dual threats requiring separate defensive responses. The fundamental concept exploits the mathematical reality that most defensive options are more effective when concentrated rather than divided. Force your opponent to choose between stopping 3 Royal Hogs on the left or 3 Royal Recruits on the right, and mathematical efficiency suggests they can't optimally handle both simultaneously with the same elixir investment you use to create the dual threat. What makes split lane particularly oppressive is how it converts.
I literally had an era, bro, where I was literally playing this type of decks, bro. Freaking, three musketeers, bro. That thing was stupid, bro. And I definitely had 3 hogs. I had a 3 hog phase, a 3 musketeer phase. I had a suspicious bush phase. Low-key, that's why I wanted to make an edit out of it, but then I realized that's kind of stupid.
Strengths into weaknesses through geometric positioning. Their Valkyrie is excellent against group troops, but significantly less effective when those troops are attacking from opposite sides of the arena. Their Fireball can eliminate one threat completely, but the other threat gets free value because spells don't travel across lanes. The strategic depth involves understanding which defensive tools work against split pressure and timing your deployments to overwhelm those specific counters, creating scenarios where mathematical advantage becomes positional advantage and positional advantage becomes tower damage. Modern split lane strategies have evolved beyond just Royal Recruits and Royal Hogs to include cards like Magic Archer that can pierce through one lane to hit towers in another,
Yep.
or evolve strategies that create natural split pressure through card mechanics. The archetype also benefits
Yep.
from current meta cards that provide split utility, like Evolved Firecracker, creating spark zones in multiple areas. The timing requirements are crucial because you need to deploy split threats when your opponent lacks the elixir or cycle position to answer both effectively.
Yep.
Too early and they can handle each threat sequentially. Too late and they might have accumulated enough elixir to overwhelm both sides with concentrated defense. The best split lane players develop an intuitive sense of when opponents are most vulnerable to multi-front pressure, creating scenarios where even perfect
What the
multi-front
fuck did you just say?
pressure,
What is he saying right here?
an intuitive sense of when opponents are most vulnerable to multi-front pressure,
Earthy. What does that even mean?
creating scenarios where even perfect play can prevent significant damage to at least one tower. Spawner decks represent a unique approach to resource management using buildings like Furnace, Goblin Hut, or Barbarian Hut to create continuous troop generation that gradually...
Absolutely nobody's playing a spawner deck in the Too Big 2025. The Goblin Hut doesn't even do this anymore, bro. I remember, literally my brother literally played this type of deck. And he was literally mad when the furnace got changed into whatever this is now. It's a walking furnace now. When was this video made, bro? Now you can't even make spawner type decks because they changed every spawner to become a defensive beast instead of an offensive
overwhelms
pressure.
opponent responses through sustained pressure rather than explosive pushes. The core strategy revolves around establishing elixir positive spawning cycles that force opponents into increasingly expensive defensive responses while you accumulate both board presence and elixir advantages. It's economic warfare disguised as tower defense, where your spawners gradually drain opponent resources faster than they can efficiently answer the constant stream of small threats. What makes spawner strategies particularly effective is how they exploit the psychological tendency to over-respond to persistent minor threats. Opponents often waste valuable spells on spawning buildings or use expensive troops to clear cheap spawned units, creating the elixir imbalances that spawner players leverage into overwhelming late-game advantages. The timing elements focus on protecting your spawners long enough to generate positive value while recognizing when to transition from passive spawning to active pushing. Typically, while
and it was literally
the timing,
it was the easiest to find like elixir positive trade with the furnace because like the furnace was spawned like 8 different fire spirits. And that would bring value, like 2 times value to this. Like 4 times 2 is like 2 times this, right? And I low-key just think like, bro, the community just hated spawner types, bro. The spawner freaking archetype, they just hated it, bro. Like I've never seen like a whole community hate one type of play, bro. All the way until like, bro, Clash Royale literally broke its first rule, bro. Clash Royale literally said we would never change cards because players get attached to cards. They changed the freaking furnace. I think they're literally about to change the Barb Hut because the Barb Hut is absolutely dog water. The Barb Hut is literally the only thing that's keeping the spawner archetype alive. But it's so bad, it can't find value anywhere. Because it spawns 3 times 3, which is 9. But 9 doesn't even give you the value of this. So you're just like in a negative. Ignore the hand movement. Okay? So you're just in a negative like all the time when you're playing this card. It's a bud card.
Elements focus on protecting your spawners.
And don't even talk about the graveyard. The grave thing, just use freaking the graveyard, bro. The tombstone, just use the graveyard. You're not getting value from that, bro.
Enough to generate positive value while recognizing when to transition from
Literally
passive spawning.
literally anything is better than this, bro. Skarmy is better than this. Graveyard's better than this. Like, literally any card, bro.
To active pushing.
Skeleton Barrel,
Typically
literally,
using
there's like so
accumulated
many
spawn
options,
troops
bro.
as support for traditional win conditions that opponents can't adequately counter while managing ongoing spawner pressure. The current meta has actually seen a renaissance of spawn.
I think they should add a bat spawner, bro. Well, I literally saw this like, no, okay, I'm not gonna steal this idea and say, oh, it was my idea. It's a fan made card, bro, and they call it a bat spawner, bro. A bat spawner would be an amazing idea. Truly would be an amazing idea, and would bring back the freaking this archetype beautifully.
Spawner strategies, particularly with Evolved Furnace reaching unprecedented usage rates among top players due to its Hot Spawns ability that generates fire spirits every 1.8 seconds when attacking, compared to the normal 5-second interval. This represents approximately 180% increased DPS through spirit generation, fundamentally changing.
Yeah, but when does your freaking this thing ever survive, bro?
How spawner control works DPS through second interval. This is every 1.8 seconds when attacking, compared to the normal 5-second interval. This represents approximately 180% increased DPS through spirit generation, fundamentally changing how spawner control works by functioning as both a spawner and high DPS threat simultaneously. What makes modern spawner control particularly annoying is how it forces opponents into constant micromanagement of small threats while you build toward larger strategic advantages. The spawned units themselves might not seem threatening individually, but their
this
cumulative
archetype
pressure
is literally
creates
the most
opportunities for
annoying
your
one,
real
bro.
win conditions
You
to
have
succeed.
never met
It's
like
death
a more
by 1,000
annoying
cuts, except
archetype
each
if
cut
you
also
haven't like
builds toward a
seen the
bigger
spawner
knife that's
archetype.
coming later. The satisfaction of spawner control comes from watching opponents gradually lose their sanity as they realize that every
I'm not gonna lie. I threw my phone when I freaking lost against the spawner archetype, bro. It looks like it disguises himself as like a sheep, but bro, that thing is a wolf, bro. That thing is a wolf at rage baiting and a wolf at literally like every single other type, bro. It's like playing a siege archetype, but the siege archetype is not even the one making you get damage. It's so easy to like. It looks so easy to counter, but bro, you find one of these in your actual game that's actually skilled and like actually has like the sanity to like place down the spawner instead of freaking going on offense. Holy moly, that thing is annoying as balls.
defensive response just feeds into your long-term advantage, and that ignoring your spawned units leads to death while answering them leads to elixir disadvantage. It's probably the most psychologically taxing archetype to face, which honestly makes it even more satisfying to play. Understanding current meta trends is crucial, because August 2025 has seen significant shifts with evolution cards, champion abilities, and balance changes that have fundamentally altered how traditional archetypes function. Evolved Furnace has reached 96% usage rates in top play, essentially warping the entire meta around its overwhelming spawn pressure capabilities. The current landscape heavily favors decks that can either utilize these new mechanics or specifically counter them, creating a more complex strategic environment where traditional archetype boundaries have become increasingly blurred. Champion cards like Boss Bandit and Little Prince provide unique abilities that
This is exactly why I think my deck is a control card. Bro, Little Prince is such a broken card. It's literally a push inside of a character. This is why I love Little Prince so much, bro. Okay. And I know you guys hate Little Prince. Oh my goodness, you play Little Prince? Oh, Guardian! Okay, like, bro, I'm not gonna lie, bro. Little Prince is the most valuable card. You get a spell, a push, a ranged unit, and the tank, which is a push. You get what I mean? A well-timed Little Prince ability is a spell and a push. A badly timed Little Prince ability is a push. A horribly spelled is still a push. No matter what you do with the card, it's gonna give you value. Even if you miss the ability, it's only 3 elixir. Oh, if you cheap defend like a card, if you cheap defend well, 3 elixir is not that much. And that's why I think Little Prince is one of the most broken cards. Literally, on release date, bro, everybody was running that thing. It's like having 9 cards inside of your deck, bro. I'm not gonna lie, Little Prince is the most wonderful card in the game.
Fit neatly into historical categories, forcing players to develop new strategic frameworks. What makes meta adaptation particularly crucial is how quickly the competitive landscape can shift when new cards or balance changes alter fundamental interactions. The recent nerfs to Fast Cycle and buffs to Heavy Beatdown have created windows for previously unviable strategies while potentially invalidating months of practice with suddenly weakened archetypes. The key to successful meta navigation involves understanding not just what's currently strong, but why it's strong, and how those strengths might be countered or exploited by creative deck building that anticipates rather than simply reacts to prevailing trends.
Yep.
Which archetype matches your playstyle? Let me know below and subscribe for more strategic breakdowns that might change how you think.
Alright, this was actually an amazing video, bro. And I already see like a banger video right here, bro. I'm gonna subscribe to him. Let's subscribe to this guy, bro. Subscribe to this guy. Hog Rider, bro. Is it Rog Rider? Rog Hider, bro. Rog Hider, bro. Subscribe to this guy. He's insane, bro. He's literally like, I think I watched like 2 videos from him, bro. Yeah, I literally like watched like this one. I watched this one but on my TV. And like literally every single thing, bro. This guy's insane. Subscribe to this guy. He's really amazing. No glaze, like, bro. Why the whole chat spamming?